snow.
There you go, mate.
Good. Thanks for making some time with us.
No, that's all right. So we went down, just kept an eye on it. I can't think of what time it was when I got down there, but we did notice it breaking on the western side of town and a bit of water coming through there, which is the side of town that always gets wet.
Yeah.
We didn't think anything too drastic of it at that point in time. You just go on and help people try and prepare and things like that.
Because there's an area of town that's more susceptible to floods.
Yes, well, the side of the town that copped the big brunt of the current and everything up this top end of side has never been wet before from a flood or from any kind of rain event like that. Yeah, actually the first rescue we did was down from the elderly fella at the Gentle Cow Cafe. We went down there on the back of young Mackie's Den's ute and got him and his little miniature pony.
Yeah.
So we lifted his little pony up on the ute and brought him up to the bridge. And yeah, as the water kept rising, they decided, right, because the fire brigade had pre-planned. They knew the town was going to get cut in half, so they'd separated the trucks. So there was a truck on each side of town, so if there was a fire, the town would be protected still. And the big truck was on the other side of town, and they made the call that, right, we need to get this truck in the water and start evacuating people from the western side of town. So they came down from Dallas Pierce's place. He drove it down. They picked up Diane and Chris Smith from their house and dropped them off at the bridge, and then they done a U-bolt in the truck and a few of us jumped on.
So you're in the fire truck now?
Yeah, and we went into the water down around Barrack Street area, just getting people out of houses. Timmy the copper and Paddy Walsh and Johnny Augustin and whatnot. And we just jumped in the water and sort of just assisted them to the truck and getting them on the truck. And we sort of filled the truck up. So we went over to Mick Mongan's place, which is that double-storey type house on stilts across the road from the Fatty. Paddy Walsh and myself went over there to see if they were there. And we said, right, you guys go and empty the truck off. We'll go and check if they're there. Come back for us. So they done that, and I think they done a couple of little rescues in between. And by the time they got back to us, the water height had gotten quite high and the current had like tripled. So by the time we got them out of the house, we were really fighting against the current to get them safely to the truck.
How are you getting people from their house to the truck? On your shoulders, or they're just hanging on to you?
They were walking, and Pat Walsh and I were one at a time, and we had it on either side, so we would take, the younger fellas would take the brunt of the current. When it got too bad, just outside of Mick Mongan's gate, Billy Turner hit the water himself. And
hit the water?
Yeah, he climbed in the water himself to help out, and he got a rope and he tied it to the bull bar and off to the gate, so at least they had something to hold on to, just to try and help fight against the current a bit. Yeah, from there we got them safely into the truck. We knew Todd Healy and his family were at their house, but we couldn't get to them with the truck. The current was too strong, and their entrance is right next to the creek's corner, and we didn't know if the road was even still there, and so we couldn't take the truck in there. So we sent a message out that they needed help getting out, whether it by air or boat, and unfortunately that never came for them. They were in the house and in the water all night. So we ended up getting back to the bridge with Mick and that, and we got them off. We noticed that the water was sort of ankle deep up Grevillea Avenue, which is Orange Road there, and that normally doesn't really happen. So that righto, well, there's a few vulnerable people up that area of town, we'll go and get them out as well. And that's about the time that wall of water hit us. Yeah, we're up Grevillea Avenue just helping to get people out. Rondielle was in Alison Granson's house because it was a little bit higher than her own house. And she's pretty fragile, so we got her out and she went off in the ambulance, and I stayed with the truck and whatnot. And Sparky Mick was in Alison Granson's house, and he was taking a little bit too long, so Billy Turner was a bit concerned that something might have gone wrong with him. So Billy's gone in after him.
How old's Billy?
He'd be pretty close to retirement age, I reckon.
Yeah. What a champion.
You know, he's having a mighty old crack, but to be honest, he's done his hard yards. It's our turn to do that kind of stuff now. And yeah, we had a rope tied to Alison Granson's gate, but it didn't quite reach the truck. So when they both came out, I had the rope wrapped around my arm and I was leaning against it to help them fight the current.
And they're hanging onto the rope.
And they're hanging onto the rope to help use it to fight the current, and I'm hanging onto the other end of it. Got a little bit hairy there a couple of times when the canola hit them. But
How high is the canola coming through? Or is it coming through?
It's coming through in just big clumps.
Big clumps.
And the water didn't actually flow through it, so once it hit you, it really forced you backwards. It really bloody put the weight of the current on you.
Right.
So from there, I think there was another couple of people we got out down that way, and we started heading. We got to get out of here because the water was climbing pretty quickly. So we were heading towards the showground. We got the truck turned around, and we were going down towards the pub there, and a car that had been abandoned on the road started floating as we were going past, which is the car that ended up in the middle of the footy oval. We went round the pub corner there, and we spotted the ambulance and the SES ute in strife, so we went down that way, noticing that we can't actually get past the bridge that way. So Dallas got down to them and done a U-turn in front of them, and I jumped back in the water, and we got Rhonda out of the SES ute window and up into the fire truck, and she's quite fragile, so they'd got her out of the ambulance into the SES ute. The SES ute carked it. So we had to get her out of the SES ute window and into the fire truck.
So ambulance to SES to fire truck.
And then from there we noticed a fella in the aged care units in pretty deep water and whatnot. So Paddy Walsh and Johnny Gusson decided, right, you get out of here with the truck. We're going to try and get over there to them. As it turns out, they couldn't get there. The current was just way too strong. So they ended up on the roof of Strommy's place and then over to Scotty's, Mongan's place. And we were heading back towards the pub. There was a ute there with at least 10 people on it, little kids and things like that.
So you've dropped Rhonda up here?
No, Rhonda stayed in the truck the whole time.
She stayed in the truck.
We couldn't get anywhere. We headed back towards the pub just to reassess.
Yep.
And we got about 10 people out of that ute off the back of it and whatnot and onto the truck. And then we got up to the pub. The building of the pub was blocking most of the current from where we were sitting. And we were pretty much pinned there. We couldn't go in any direction because the current was just too savage going over Canandra Road, over the bridge and over the other bridge, obviously. So we sat there for a little minute, excuse me, just trying to work out what the best plan of attack would be. We were on the big truck and the back of it was going underwater. That truck, to its credit, it did not stop all day. It should have done. It was proper drowned, but then there's only one conclusion. We had to go up. So we waded over to the pub to see if we could go through the doors or the windows to use the stairs to get up to the balcony. And by that time, like, I'm bouncing and it's just underneath my chin and lapping up in my face there. But the water was higher inside the pub than it was out, just because the back door on Grevilla Avenue had broken and the current was washing in, but there was no way to wash out as easily, so it was a good 6 inches higher inside the So Sparky Mick ended up coming up with the idea, well, there's a ladder on this truck, let's see if we can use that. So we got the ladder down and got it over there, and because there was still current running through there, just most of it was getting blocked from the pub building. So I climbed up while they held the bottom of the ladder just to make sure it was going to be steady and safe and whatnot. And then Sparky Mick and Mick Stibbart end up shuttling people through the water to the ladder, and Mick Stibbart ended up the ladder himself, and he was helping me up top, and Sparky Mick was doing most of the shuttling from then on, trying to keep little kids out of the water, put them on his shoulder to walk them over there and things like that. And we got everyone up to the roof of the pub and over the railing and onto the balcony, and they were pretty safe from then on in. And we sort of had a lull in the battle there for a little while we were just waiting and watching what was happening.
Are people, how are they responding at this time? What are kids doing?
The kids were, some of them were obviously nervous and concerned and stuff, but they were taking it really, really well. Being up on the pub on the solid ground and whatnot, probably a bit of comfort for everyone. The power upstairs at the pub didn't go out throughout the whole day, and we found this dirty little electric heater, so we put that on and got people that were wet to sit around it and borrowed a couple of blankets from the rooms and things like that. But and then as the water started to go down a little bit, we started to notice more and more cars that had been washed away because they were submerged before and we couldn't see them.
Right.
And Johnny Dan ended up bouncing sort of from tree to tree from Grevillere Avenue down to the pub just to have a bit of a look and whatnot. And he said Sim Newell and the kids were still in the house and water everywhere. And just as luck had happened,
he bounced down the river.
Yeah, he was sort of just
tic-tacking,
yeah,
down the street,
just to keep himself sorted from the current, because it was still quite savage going down Grevillere Avenue. And as luck would have it, someone's tinny still on the trailer had wedged itself in the pillars of the pub. So we went downstairs and got the boat off the trailer.
Fair game.
And walked it up to Grevillere Avenue and got Sim and the kids out and walked them back down and got them upstairs at the pub. And then we just tied the boat up to the pillar of the pub, and from there it was mostly just a bit of a waiting game until the water went down enough to make an attempt to get the truck out. Excuse me. Sparky Mick started heading up Canandra Road and I had a fair idea what he was doing, so I'd hit the water as well, and we just started walking Canandra Road just to make sure the road was still there to get the truck through, because we still had no chance in hell of getting down past the football oval. The current up there was just still so savage. And once we got through, there was a truck and a crew on the other side doing the same thing, trying to get into town. So they got the all clear to bring the truck up here, and I continued on foot because my house wasn't overly far from there. And I'm looking at all the houses up that street just washed off the pillars and whatnot, and thinking, what the hell am I about to walk into at my place? But the house still looked pretty good, so I just walked in, quick look around side, walked out and came up with the showground. Because there was the phones were down, there was no communication through town all day, so no one knew who was safe, who wasn't. Billy Turner came up with the idea of me getting a list of names, pen and paper, of everyone that was with us and safe, and he used the fire truck radio to radio through a list of names of people that were with us and okay. And once I got up here, I found my dad and let him know I was okay, and said a couple other hellos and I'm okays and shit like that. And Paddy Walsh came past with another fire truck, so I jumped in that and in through the houses and cars we searched, and clearing them, making sure that sort of no one was really left behind. And yeah, then it came time that it was just time for us to stop for the night. And so I came in here, still sopping wet, and young Celeste shouted me a pair of dry footy shorts to put on, which was nice, although they were sky blue and fluorescent pink. But and that's pretty much all she wrote for that day, I suppose.
Oh, mate, huge day.
Yeah, it was, and everyone that was on our truck, just absolutely superhuman efforts out of a lot of them, especially Sparky Mick, he was unreal. But everyone just jumped in and lent a hand.
Yeah, so that rough count, there's 30, 40 people, maybe more, who've got on the back of that truck or
I think when we got to the pub there was about 20, 25 people on the truck. Yeah, that's not including however many people we got off from the other side earlier on in the day.
Well, there's two things everyone's thankful for. One, it didn't happen at night.
Yeah, absolutely.
And two, people like you who just put their hand to the plough and made it happen, just went into automatic mode.
I think that's just what any normal Aussie sort of person would do when put in that situation, especially coming from a tight-knit community like we are.
So going forward, rebuilding Eugowra, can you see it happening?
Honestly, I can't see the locals taking no for an answer. I know there's going to be a lot of red tape and insurance issues and things like that, but I think most people will just push forward as much as they possibly can, because it's a wonderful spot to live and no one really wants to leave. I sure don't.